bringing Israel to the world. This is IBN News.
With News of Israel, I'm Susan Michaels. Israel's coronavirus cabinet has voted to reopen schools this week despite the increase of COVID cases due to the Delta variant in the country. Although quite a number of restrictions never seen before will be put in place to protect the millions of students heading back to schools and kindergartens this week in the Jewish state. In order to reduce the risk of infection, on the first day of school, parents were requested to submit a statement saying that their child has been tested and found negative for COVID, and teaching staff have been required to present a green pass in order to teach in person. Unvaccinated teachers who are not willing to get tested for COVID will be prohibited from entering kindergartens and schools unless they are tested every 2 weeks. A special report highlighting the government's inadequacy in treatment of the COVID pandemic in Israel was published this week. State Comptroller Netanyahu Engelman's report focused on Benjamin Netanyahu's government during the country's first and second COVID wave in 2020. In the report, he said the lack of a state budget for the year caused grave damage to the country's budgetary conduct in a time of crisis and impaired the state's decision-making during the pandemic. Easing a tight blockade maintained on the Gaza Strip since the 11-day war in May, Israel has allowed dozens of truckloads of construction materials into the Hamas-ruled territory this week. The imports came during a tense period in which Hamas activists have launched incendiary balloons into Israel, sparking a number of wildfires across the border, and staged a series of sometimes violent demonstrations along the separation fence with Israel. Despite the tensions, Israeli officials this week allowed the entry of the badly needed building materials for Gaza's private sector in a step that may help calm the situation. And Bahrain's first ambassador to Israel, Khalid Youssef Al-Jalama, has arrived in the Jewish state nearly 1 year after the signing of the Abraham Accords, which established diplomatic relations between the two countries. I'm Susan Michaels.
IBN, Israel Broadcast Network.